The overall scope of the project was to create a wow experience for the homeowners, so that if they ended up in the facility for an extended period of time, that they would have access to all the comforts that they're typically used to in the home. That included, on the AV side, automation of entertainment, of the control of information, the integration of lighting control, audio control, distributed video control, so that they could live here and enjoy the facility, not just survive.
Everything from being able to grow our own food, to take care of our own medical needs, to produce our own electricity through wind turbines, or the redundant, air filtration. Everything has been thought out to, function in the long term.
What used to be a missile silo is now survival bunkers for the wealthy. Here to tell us about the luxury survival condos is Dr. Drew Miller. How's it going?
Very good. Pleased to be on your show.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. So talk to me a little bit about these survival condos, because clearly my interest is definitely piqued. You don't get the, how do you say, there tends to be a bit of a more grungier component to prepping and survival and post-apocalyptic terms. So what sparked the idea, and where is this going?
Well, prepping, of course, is done by, we're guessing, anywhere from 1% to 3% of the population, but most is, as you described, very Spartan and kind of minor preparations, nothing like survival condo. What you see with survival condo is really the gold standard in preparedness and safety and security and luxury that most preppers won't have. But it's not new. This has been going on for a long time. What you used to have more commonly with wealthy people was they would put in a secure facility either at an urban location or more likely a more rural location, and they'd have a place in their house. But it's really not that feasible to do that. You have to have guards and a lot of equipment and facilities. So even if you're a wealthy person, it's expensive. So what survival condo has done is they've taken old ICBM silos, like 170 some feet deep, and they've turned those into condos that can hold anywhere from 50 to over 100 people, depending on how they outfit them, but with absolutely everything you need to survive, which for people like you and I and our preparedness we can't survive everything. We're a lot better off than 99% of the people who aren't prepping. They can survive just about everything and do it in a luxury kind of situation as well.
Yeah, and just watching that brief video and kind of doing my own reading about it, one of the things that sticks out to me is like I'm very technologically heavy when it comes to things that I do in my daily life. I run a lot of my home on automated technology, and I look at this and I think from a maintenance standpoint, what type of upkeep is somebody going to be looking at for a silo condo of this nature?
They have a lot of upkeep. First of all, they have 24-hour security all the time, because a lot of places like Survival Condo and some others are not just looking at using these facilities for disaster. You can use them this time. So people will vacation there, and I've spent some nights there, and it's like staying in a luxury hotel, pools and things. But the other thing is you can store things there. So your valuables you can store there. If you're a company, it's an excellent facility to do data storage.
Gotcha.
To try to do it online, or you can do just backup with key documents you'd want for your company. So there's peacetime uses as well. So they have guards there, they're growing food, they have a lot of things. So there definitely is upkeep and changing of filters and things like that. There is maintenance that they do.
Okay. And so you analogize staying there even during peacetime as synonymous to staying in a luxury hotel. Could you give me a star rating? Are we talking like 4, 5? Where are we on that scale?
It's 4 to 5. I mean, they don't just you go to some hotels and they've got a pool, and you can't swim a lap in it. They got a big pool. They have slides for the kids. They have indoor dog areas for your dog park for your dog and cat to go to. They have saunas. I mean, they've got pretty much everything, because their belief is they want to have their members there to be not just protected, but to have their emotional and psychological health taken care of for potentially long periods of time. And if we have a pandemic, and we are going to have a pandemic, it's going to last over a year. Or worse, it could last a lot longer, and then you have to deal not just with the pandemic, you have to deal with the breakdown in the functioning economy and widespread loss of law and order.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a really bad situation in a lot of these disaster scenarios. And so if you're in survival condo, you're pretty well taken care of.
Gotcha. Now, from a clientele standpoint, in relation to proximity, usually are these places that people are building close to their homes, or are they further out? Because in my mind, I think in a situation that deteriorates, let's say, incredibly quickly, there's going to be an issue in terms of getting to that location at some point, you know?
Mm-hmm. A survival condo is in the central U.S. I won't say exactly where,
yeah.
but it's a central facility to go to. Most people who think of an underground place, they're thinking of small shelters that could be in your backyard.
Yeah.
This is nothing like that. This is a large facility. And so you're going to have to travel to get there. But for most, really, I always distinguish between there's a trigger event, there's some disaster that happens, and usually that's not going to be the worst thing. It's
mm-hmm.
how the cascading effects that occur, which takes time to play out, and then how people react to it. That's usually by far the worst threat. So you really do have time to travel. And most of their clientele is wealthy. They're millionaires. So they can afford to fly there, and it's not hard to get there. I mean, in emergency, you can drive across the U.S. Plus, they have alerting services. So they're going to get, their members, one of the services they get is they'll get advance notice saying, hey, you know, it does look like this pandemic spreading out of China is serious. We recommend you come now. So they'll leave early.
Now, are there any attempts, or are you guys already in the process of doing this, building, let's say, slightly more affordable versions of these bunkers? Is that in the plans in the future, or is just a hyper focus on the extremely wealthy?
It is for wealthy people. It is for millionaires. And now there are companies that are increasingly looking at buying facilities like this, not just for the data storage and key documents, but to have a place to send their key personnel. So if you happen to work at a company that's looking into that, well, then yes, you could luck out. But again, survival condo is the gold standard. It's the best protection. It's the most expensive, the most luxurious. Most preppers are nothing like that. They've got much more austere things. It's basically like going to your Aunt Jane's in Nebraska at a rural retreat where you and your you got stuff prepared and you got some good planning done. That's what most people are going to be doing if they're prepared.
Gotcha. And so from a it's hard for me to conceptualize it because like you said, it is a gold standard, and for somebody who like myself who isn't a prepper, in my mind I'm like, this makes perfect sense, and then I look at my bank account and I'm like, oh yeah, that's not going to work. Now, from your experience, for somebody who's not in a position, let's say for instance, to afford a bunker of this nature, just kind of off the top, what would be your recommendation as somebody on who can afford it but is still looking to kind of be as prepared as possible considering?
Right. Well, first of all, if you're living in Dallas, you need to get out of an urban area. You don't want to stay in. You need to have a rural place, someplace you can go. It could be your aunt in Nebraska with advance arrangements, or you can buy some rural land. And if you buy land in rural areas, it's generally pretty darn cheap.
Yeah.
But this isn't something you really can do on your own, not just because of the cost, but because you have to have security. You got to have so many preparations. So you really need a group of people together, and there's quite a few people that do this. There's even areas in the United States, I can mention it, Oregon, for example, where a lot of preppers live there and a lot of people plan to go there in the time of a collapse.
Okay. I'm just hoping that everybody takes your advice and then moves out of Dallas metropolitan area, and so that I kind of get the inverse benefit of being the only one here. That was probably the dumbest thing I've ever said on national television. But no, I really want to thank you very much for joining us here and giving us a kind of in-depth look at these $1 million condos. Now I have something to aspire to. And hopefully one day you and I will be chit-chatting maybe about my own bunker at some point.
Very good.
Hopefully. But if not, I guess I'll be moving out of Dallas.
There are other options too, but it was the gold standard.
Gotcha. Well, thank you very much, Drew Miller, and I hope you have a good one.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us on CN Live. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern on NRA TV. I'm Colion, and I'm out.